Oh, hello, good evening. Welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live from Sabata Desawe Kanda, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Ocansey. Tonight, the battle lines are drawn in the NPP flagbearer race, a fierce five-way contest as aspirants make case to lead the party into the 2028 elections. Your Election Command Center will break down the key issues and developments after today. What next for all of them? Stay with us. We've got a conversation on that. We're live in the Akwatia constituency where both the MPP and the NDC are actively canvassing support ahead of the crucial September 2 by-election. The NPP in particular is holding a vigil tonight in honor of the late Member of Parliament for the area, Enes Yakumi, ahead of the one-week memorial. We have a full coverage of that. Stay with us. Also, the National Commission on Small Arms and Light Weapons is raising concern over the display and use of firearms during festivals. This follows violent clashes during a recent Teshi Homowo celebrations, which has now led to the death of 3 people. Now, that's the updates that we have as a result of this rather unfortunate incident. 3 people have died. Yesterday, the update that we gave you was that 2 persons who had been confirmed dead, but 1 person in critical condition. Now, the update is that 3 people have died as a result of this violence that wrapped the entire celebration. That's the early part of it a couple of days ago. But this is one that we have our eyes on because the Ghana Police Service has been speaking about this. You would hear them here on Ghana Tonight. You're an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get to it. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
The Accra High Court has dismissed an application for interlocutory injunction by Action People's Party against the Akwatia by-election slated for September 2. The party challenged the Electoral Commission's disqualification of its candidate, David Ankoma, indicating that the EC notified him on short notice to present a tax clearance certificate. The court also held that the financial losses claimed by the applicants couldn't be adequately compensated with monetary damages by the EC. Reacting to the decision of the court, founder of the Action People's Party expressed his dissatisfaction.
We need to deal with the case in front of you. But talking about the other contestant that they have also spent money, that is out of my concern. My concern is the law. We need to deal with the law. Am I qualified to contest? Have I done everything possible to contest? Have I submitted all the documents to contest? That is the case before the judge. So if the judge make a ruling and concerning other political parties and republics, therefore my interest, why is my interest in the republic?
An unidentified number of victims of communal conflict who were fleeing the Saula Tuna Kalba district of the Savannah region have reportedly died after a canoe on which they were crossing the Black Filter around Dine Tuombo enclave into neighboring Cote d'Ivoire capsided. Information gathered by TV3 reveals that 6 of the victims were rescued, with an unidentified number still under the water. A search party has since been deployed by NADMO to search for the remaining missing persons. Several hundreds of victims fleeing the conflict are still stranded at Dinie, Saula and Tuna. The Greater Accra Regional Minister Linda Oklo has issued a stern warning to Metropolitan, Municipal and District Assemblies (MMDAs) in the region over worsening sanitation conditions and lapses in administrative discipline. Speaking at an accountability engagement with all MMDCs and their management teams, the minister expressed deep concern about the deteriorating state of sanitation in Accra, stating plainly,
"I'm extremely disappointed with the level of inefficiency and complacency being exhibited by some of our chief executives. At this stage, excuses are nothing but an embarrassment to the people we serve."
The Ghana Water Limited has announced an interruption in water supply due to emergency repair works at the Bong treatment plant. According to management, the shutdown has become necessary following damage to the raw water transmission pipeline that serves the plant. The repair works, which began today, August 28, 2025, are expected to last for 3 days. The disruption will affect residents in Tema and parts of Accra, including Ashaman, Spintex, Lashby, East Legon and surrounding areas. Customers have been advised to store enough water, while schools and hospitals are encouraged to contact Ghana Water Limited for support during the period. Ghana's national unemployment rate saw a modest decline in 2024, falling to 13.6% from 14.6% in 2023, according to the latest data from the Ghana Statistical Service. The new figures published in the Annual Household Income and Expenditure Survey, the fourth quarter labor statistics 2024, reflect a 1 percentage point improvement in the country's overall employment situation. Government statistician Dr. Al-Hassan Idrisu recounts.
Employment is growing, but too many jobs remain informal and insecure. Youth unemployment and also the NEET group, that is those that are unemployed, they are not in education and they are also not observing any training, are alarmingly high, keeping millions out of both work and education. We've seen that regional gaps are widening, with Accra and Ashanti recording both high employment and high unemployment rates, while northern regions struggle. Again, long-term unemployment is becoming entrenched, trapping thousands in prolonged joblessness.
As more news on 3news.com. Make some time, visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live as well on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on YouTube and on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279. Connect with us. Let's hear from you. As always, proudly brought to you by Flamingo Paint, Simply Superior, Sasso Insecticide Spray and Call Tum Preko. Coming up next here on Ghana Tonight. This is your election command center and 5 contenders, 1 flag bearer race. The NPP's fierce race for 2028 heats up strongly. In your election command center, we have the latest on this. So all 5 persons who declared their intentions and they are in that conviction that they had to contest this flag bearership, they have completed the process of filing. Today is actually the last day for the filing process, the 28th of August, per the calendar that the NPP itself gave out. We're going to show you what happens after today. But this presidential election committee is assuring of a fair and transparent process. 5 aspirants have so far filed to contest the flag bearer elections at the close of nominations today for the New Patriotic Party. They are promising to help the NPP capture or recapture power in the 2028 elections. First, let's hear from them as they filed their nominations. Start off with Engineer Kwabena J. Japong, who was actually the first to file his nomination a few days ago, and this is what he had to say. Take a look.
Friends of our great elephant family, patriots of our beloved New Patriotic Party. Today marks a pivotal milestone in my lifelong political journey as I submit my nomination forms before you, inspired and resolute. This moment is more than a personal aspiration. It's a reaffirmation of my unwavering commitment to the values and principles that anchored the formation of the MPP, values that must necessarily lead us into a new era of renewal and hope. I'm here once again because I believe deeply in the need to restore our cherished values of service, sacrifice, and selflessness back into our party and in our general society. Ghana's democracy now stands in urgent need of leaders unafraid to take difficult decisions, to provide real solutions, and to serve with authenticity, integrity, and substance. We must put the nation on a war footing, rolling our sleeves, restoring the culture of hard work, meritocracy, and professionalism back to the workplace and in the society in general. I envision a Ghana that is economically robust, resilient, fiscally responsible, socially cohesive, and fully accountable to the citizens.
That's Engineer Kobneje Japan, former General Secretary of the party. This is not the first time he's going at this presidential, that's the flag bearership of the NPP. He's not giving up, even though the many who would reference the numbers and how the previous numbers don't favor him. You've heard him clearly. He still has that conviction. He says he has what it takes to lead the new patriotic party. Next up was the former Greek minister, that's Dr. Brian Achampong, who's been carving his campaign to capture and appeal to the young people, the Betifi Member of Parliament. And this is what he also had to say when he filed. We'll try to recall that shortly. But today we saw a lot of activity, and rightly so. Yesterday we saw that Kennedy Ohene Japan as well. When he filed his nomination. Now we don't have what Dr. Brian Achampong said after he filed his nomination. Take a look.
I shall focus on jobs, food security, and infrastructure. Okay. For security, you know that's my turn. Today, having now submitted my form to run as flag bearer of the MPP, it effectively means that I have submitted my declaration for unity, for a disciplined campaign. Thus, my supporters, north to south, east to west, must shy away from comments and commentary that smears individuals and ultimately affect the fortunes of our party. I come to unite, I come to build, I come to lead with conviction, and I come to win power for MPP.
Was that Dr. Brian Achampong there? And well, after him, we also had Kennedy Ohene Japan, who also filed his nomination, and very interesting, individuals in different forms who accompanied him. Standing out was the former GFA president, Kwesi Nyantakyi as well, who was there with him. And then also you had the likes of a former deputy finance minister as well in there. You also had many others who really did identify with Kennedy Ohene Japan within that process of contesting. Dr. Stephen Amoah, who is the Nshaeso Member of Parliament, the former deputy finance minister, was there with him as well. And then you also had a former PRO for the Education Ministry as well with him, and a number of key persons within the NPP. It sends a certain signal as well. But then again, this is what Kennedy Japan had to say. Take a look.
My team are happy to be here this afternoon to submit our forms. I want to say a big thank you. I know the crowd is too much and the place is not full. I kindly accept my apology. All I want to say is we are one party and we need unity in this party. And if there will be unity, there should be fairness. So I'm entreating the election committee, the national executives, regional constituency executives, that we should be fair to all the candidates. so that we have smooth elections. And if there's fairness, definitely there will be unity. So I'm only asking for unity in this party. It's very paramount. I always say that without the unity, none of the candidates can win the election alone. And if we get unity, it will first, charity begins at home. The national executives that are in charge of the party, the elections committee, regional constituency executives, and the aspirants themselves. When we all come together and understand each other, I believe we can make progress.
So that's Kenny Ohene-Japan there, as a former Central Member of Parliament, and clearly talking about fairness for all candidates. And already, earlier today, the persons within his camp have raised concerns about why Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's filing of the nomination earlier today was streamed live on the MPP's official social media handle and so on, raising questions about it. There's been some responses given. But as we saw today, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia was the fourth to file his nomination earlier today in the company of lots of people. The persons who filed on his behalf, Fred Owari, a former vice chair of the NPP, and then also one-time CEO of the Bui Power Authority. Now, this is what Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia said. Take a look.
The most important desire in the hearts of all our colleagues is a win in 2028. We have to put our best foot forward as we rebuild our party towards that election. To win in 2028, we must not just talk unity, we must live it. The repeated attacks by our own party folks on one another is absolutely unhelpful. What we say against each other, the NDC will use against us in 2028. If you claim you are a true patriot and want this party to win in 2028, then stop it. Don't lecture us about how blue your blood is. Let your actions show. Stop the internal attacks now. Stop the religious and tribal attacks now.
Well, so he's also been talking about how he has been the most effective candidate and a marketed one that's showing up in 2008 and building that portfolio for himself. And what he says has contributed to the New Patriotic Party. I want to take a look at this and then I'll walk you down this immediate past memory of the NPP and how things are shaping up now. But this is Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia earlier today. Take a look.
The rich, innovative and practical ideas that I successfully championed and saw to implementation include the Bank of Ghana's Gold Purchase Program, the first in Africa, the Gold for Oil Program, the first in Africa, the accelerated issuance of the Ghana card, mobile money interoperability, the first in Africa, the Ghana Digital Property Address System, the first in Africa. Agenda 111, one constituency, one ambulance. The Zipline drone delivery service, the largest in the world. The universal QR code payment system. The No, which is the first in Africa. The No Guarantor student loans. Ghana.gov, the Citizens app. NHIS registration and renewal on your mobile phone, the rental assistance scheme, the Zongo Development Fund, individualized credit scoring, paperless ports, electric buses, e-gates at Kotoka International Airport, and the digitalization of medical records across all district, regional, and teaching hospitals in Ghana, amongst others. The implementation of these practical policy initiatives has resulted in many people saying that I have been the most effective vice president in Ghana's history. This implies that given the opportunity, I can equally become one of the most effective presidents in Ghana as we go forward.
The last of the five, but not the least, is Dr. Yaosey Duchum, a former education minister. He also filed his nomination today, and he is promising, including, in fact, a number of issues, including the strategy to deal with poverty in this country. This is going to be his main agenda. He does not understand why we're still having to grapple with poverty in this country. This is Dr. Yaosey Duchum.
Today, another journey has begun. The train is about to move from the station. We are just about warming up. I want my delegates to get on board. I want the people of Ghana to get on board the Duchum train. The Duchum factor is real. We are going to do what people never imagined will happen in this country. A young man who grew up literally in a cocoa farm with uneducated parents became the Minister for Education when his parents were not educated. That is what I believe is the Ghanaian dream. Opportunity for every youth who is listening to me today, every child listening to me today, for you to know that your better days are ahead of you and not behind you. Do not despair. Do not give up. Our government will do much, much, much better for you. We did something great. We may not have exceeded your expectations, but I'll do something great. 2029, God willing.
Well, so that's Dr. Yaosey Duchum, former education minister, as well, completing the pack of five that will face the vetting committee of the new Patriotic Party in the coming days, and after which the vetting committee, and we'll show you the calendar, what they're going to be doing in the coming days. They would submit their report. There's going to be a period as well for those who might not go through after the vetting to raise queries and also challenge the decision of the vetting committee, and then eventually the process and the cycle will get into the campaign proper ahead of the January 30 date that they have set. But if you recall, ahead of the 2024 elections in 2023, this was not how things were for the party. There were more than 5 people, okay? In fact, 10 people who put up themselves, or they were nurturing and mulling the idea of leading the MPP into the 2024 elections. And these are the people. After the first round of the delegates conference, this is what they got. Canadian Japan, this is not the first time he showed up in that period. That's the first time he polled some 14.3%, and then followed closely as well. The next, you have not Alan Kojo Chemanting, who followed him as well, 10.29 there. Joe Gatti, 0.43%. The former Sikado Ketan Member of Parliament, former Deputy Speaker as well, and Kojo Poku as well. He is an energy analyst. He is now with Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, by the way. That's Kojo Poku. He served as the head of the Energy Committee of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's campaign team in 2024. He then also, he didn't go through. And then also Friya Koto, the former Agric minister as well. You saw him in there. Kwame Japan was in there. Look, after the first round in 2023, he didn't show up well. And he knows that. He's admitted that. But he says that this time around, this figure of 6 out of the lot that he got is not going to deter him. He says it's not breaking his heart. He's going at it again. Francis Adainimo, this time around, he says he's not going to waste his time. He's not contesting. He issued a statement detailing reasons why he's not going to contest, including what he says is the monetization of the entire process, says that he cannot deal with. Kofi Konadu Apreko as well, he didn't show up this time around. Boache Jakon did not. And then you also have Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who polled 629. That was at the first round ahead of that particular 2024 election. This is how things played out from the 10 of them at the first instance. So then the party had to take the decision, as enshrined in the party's constitution, go through a special delegates conference to whittle down the numbers to 5. This time around, they don't have to do that. But this is what happened in 2023. This is it. 2023, after the period, it was supposed to be 5. But then we all do know or recall what happened with the decision by Alan Kojo Chimanting to break away and form the Movement for Change. So that's when these 4 persons had to go to the special delegates conference that now saw Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia emerge as the flag bearer of the new Patriotic Party going into election 2024. So you saw a number of people who eventually fell off. But Francis Adainimo this time around, even though he says, well, look, I made it through the second round in 2023, but I am not going to then waste my time because of this monetization and matters arising. Dr. Owusu Akoto is not contesting as well this year. But the first 2 are on for this year. These are the 5 persons who are going to test their mettle on who would lead the new Patriotic Party going into this 2028 election. These 5. But amongst them, you have a former vice president, a former education minister, former agric minister, former member of parliament, former general secretary of the party as well. Let me welcome now Dr. Jonathan Asantiochi. He is a political analyst and also a lecturer, senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast. Professor Smart Sapong is a political analyst as well as a lecturer at the Kumasi Technical University. Gentlemen, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on Ghana Tonight.
Good evening, Alfred.
Good evening, Alfred.
Perfect.
Good
now,
evening to your viewers.
Well, I'm sure all of you paid attention to all 5 of them, what they have been saying they will do for the party if elected. Now, Professor Satwa, earlier you had indicated that all arsenals of the other 4 seems to be targeting Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and that will play to some sort of advantage for him because he's getting much of the attention of the other 4. Why is that?
Well, Alfred, a very good evening to you, and good evening to my brother Jonathan. Trust you are all doing well. So far, the process has been quite good, peaceful. Almost all the 5 aspirants have had a good number of people accompanying them to submit the forms they took earlier. And I mean, the commentary prior to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's submission from all but except maybe Dr. Educhum's camp, and then I think Kobne Japon's camp. The 2 were quite friendly to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. But if you see the recent, until recently, when Brian also made a comment or 2 about some analysis in respect of where Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia comes from and potential impact on the votes if he is re-elected as the flag bearer, you realize that it appears that they do not do a submission without mentioning Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's name. And that was where I drew the caution that if they are listening, when you do that in politics, you draw all the attention towards the person who has appeared to become your apparent target, where the target in an internal election should not be a certain individual. All of you should deem yourselves fit to contest, deliver your messages to the delegates, and trust or convince them to go with you. In an internal contest, no one should be your target. In fact, the entire target of the NPP should be their political opponents, mainly the NDC and subsequently the other smaller parties, if they get themselves organized. So I threw in that note, you are right, and I'm sure going forward they would want to stick to the issues, why the delegates of NPP should actually listen to them and why they should be considered to be flag bearers and desist from mentioning the name of one of them. When you do that and you say good thing about the person, it inures to his benefit. Even if you say bad thing about the person, you get the delegates thinking, oh, why? Why did he come to meet us and for 30 minutes or 40 minutes didn't tell us anything about what he has for us, but kept describing or talking about one of the aspirants in this manner or that? So you confuse the delegates even more if you make one aspirant your target. I want to believe that they watched the show that day and going forward, they may want to stick to the issues. What should be considered for the delegates to vote for them other than centering one of them, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, as a matter anytime they gather or meet delegates.
Well, but then if you look at and Dr. Jonathan Searcher, I bring you in, if you look at the political contest, it would not be wrong, and you see by default, Professor Sapong, that all the others will be targeting, for the lack of better expression, targeting Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, because he is the immediate past flag bearer. They want to unseat him because he still has an influence or a clout, an impact within the party. Dr. Asante Ochi, now that goes without a doubt that he is the most marketed candidate, 2008, 2012, 2016, 2020, 2024, and now seeking to go again in 2028, talking about Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. But looking at the marketability and the viability of the candidate, how does that play out for all five of them?
Well, I had wanted to take a different twist altogether. Let me say good evening to your viewers and to my good brother out there. In his argument, he felt that there was no need for the candidate to throw a pothead at any of the other candidates, of course, without mentioning names. I think that Kennedy Japan did not mention anybody's name, but of course he cast aspersions and insinuations, and obviously you knew whom was really the target, what was his target. And then apart from that, Dr. Bawumia himself saying that, well, he is not there to make noise. Obviously, whom is he referring to? Others other than himself who have been making noise. Well, he's not going to insult, which people have been insulting. Obviously, it must be his opponent. You see, it is a matter of political strategy. If you get it right, it will inure to your benefit. I remember so well when Donald Trump was, contesting Mrs. Clinton in the Republican primaries. This was an unassuming, non-conventional politician that was to deal with a very conventional politician that has seen it all. And there wasn't a chance for Donald Trump to win against Madam Clinton. But because of his unconventional style and unsettling the woman, he was able to get to the negatives of the woman. And at the end of the day, he got himself elected as a Republican leader, went ahead to win the elections in 2016. And so, in as much as you don't have to abuse, insult, and be abrasive against your opponent, it does not mean that if your opponent has political weakness or weaknesses, you cannot point them out. Though it is an internal contest, how then do you get the delegate to have a rethink, a second thought, at the very person that they have had in mind? So you need to create a situation where you'll be more viable, you'll be more credible than the so-called establishment candidate or the one that appears to be the leading candidate. Of course, you will obviously be the one that will have to take more of the pothead that each of the candidates will have to throw. And that is very obvious because he himself positioning himself to tell us that, well, he is the more marketed, more experienced. Of course he is. 8 years in opposition, 8 years in government, all as what is it called, deputy or second in command in opposition, second in command in government. He's more experienced. The others, at least, or at most, they've been what, ministers, and they could easily have been sacked, at the behest of the president. And so you do not expect a situation where they will not in any way unsettle the very person that they believe is the leading candidate according to the polls. They will have to prove to the delegate that there are better options than the very person that they've been thinking about. And that will have to mean that they will have to showcase whatever they themselves, can put forth and what they are made of, the resources they possess, how resourceful they are, how marketed they are, how grassroots in itself that they are. And so I realized in the speech of Dr. Bawumia, for example, that it appears that he's so worried about grassroots because if you listen to his speech, it's more like you are appealing to only the middle class and probably above the middle class. The grassroots are always in the majority. If you listen to the language style of Kennedy Japan, that is more of a grassroots language.
I see. You see Bawumia
equally interested.
Bawumia focusing the Bawumia language. You say appeals to the middle class and upper class, and he doesn't resonate. It doesn't resonate with the grassroots. From what you heard,
it does not.
You think Kennedy Japan does that better?
Alfred, the point is that yes, the point, and it even showed when they were in the contest before the 2024 elections, the special presidential primaries. You could see that Mr. Kennedy Japan had a superior message than Dr. Bawumia. Dr. Bawumia was constrained because of the things that he said in the past, right? The kinds of things that he said in the past before the 2016 elections, before the 2020 elections. And so he was constrained. Now he doesn't know, or he didn't know whether to say A, B, C, and D. Because whatever you say, your records are there. They will just pull it out and show to you that what we are saying today is exactly opposite of what you said yesterday. Yes.
So let me ask you. Yes, he is the most marketed, but also how viable is the candidature from where you sit?
I'm of the view that he's the most marketable. Yes, no two ways about that. But he's equally more of a disaster for the MPP. You see, when they lost the elections in 2024 on the same platform, long before we got to this particular position, I said that the main problem of the MPP, the main dilemma of the MPP would be Dr. Bawumia, because they wouldn't know whether to ditch him or to go with him again. That's the main problem. You see, if you have a system in which what the NDC is running today, the economy that the NDC is running today, if they keep to this economy, and even things get better, on what basis would Ghanaians vote for Dr. Bawumia? Because if what they inherited from you has become better than what you left, there is no reason. It can only take a different face to tell us something different, sweeter and better than what the NDC will have been doing today up to the period of the 2028 elections. I have been thinking about this because it will have to mean that the economy that the NDC is running today under President Mahama, Vice President Professor Nana Pokajima, important ministers like the Agriculture Minister, the Finance Minister, and so on and so forth, the Chief of Staff, and the way the kinds of things that they are doing in this country. The only reason that any rational Ghanaian can say that I'm going back to Dr. Bawumia is when the economy becomes worse than what they inherited.
Okay. Well, Professor Sapol.
That's it. So the only reason why Ghanaians decided to vote for Mr. Mahama was because the economy that they inherited, they made it worse than what they inherited from Mr. Mahama.
I see. Professor Sapol, so the argument is that,
this is not atmospheric science.
Okay, great. The argument is that, yes, Dr. Bawumia is the most marketed candidate. The others know that. And so the only way, as Dr. is saying, Jonathan Asachurch is saying, is that they would have to point out his weaknesses and question the viability as against the marketability of his candidature. Why is that a wrong approach from where you sit?
No, it is not wrong. Politically, if you want to go at your opponent, you may have to use all means possible. But then the caveat is that when you are doing internal politics, you minimize that. In fact, at best, you can cast some slight aspersions and people may know what you mean. But to go all out and sort of make him your subject of discussion in an internal contest, it may not be the best approach. If it was an external contest between you and your opposition parties, you can use that, bring out all the weaknesses in your opponent so that you can appear quite acceptable. But in internal, when you leave the issues of the party, when you lose focus on the main target, and the target becomes an internal person, and you go ahead and say things that weakens the cohesion, the unity between the five of you, how then do you turn around at the end of the contest and try to build unity? Unity becomes difficult. So if you stayed with the issues in an internal contest, the rate at which you can come together, unite as a party, becomes faster than deliberately hitting at your own member of your party, somebody you once sat in cabinet with, somebody you once held several good meetings or good times with. In fact, that approach is good in a competition. But in an internal contest, and that is the caveat I want us to take note, in an internal contest where you seek unity or reconciliation after the contest, you do not make that as your approach. You leave all the issues relevant and then you subject one person as your target. That will not be the best. What we can do on your platform is to issue the advice. If they take it, fine. If they want to use that as a strategy and go all out to, that will also be fine. At the end of the day, they may come together to want to reconcile. And like Dr. Baumia said, the things you might have said about your own friends will be the things that will be played back to you. And you will see whether it will be easy to unite or it will be quite difficult. So it's a good strategy politically, but not a recommended strategy in an internal contest. And that's the caveat.
Now, I'm going to take your quick thoughts on this because one person who contested in the run-up to the 2024 elections, the flag bearership of the MPP, that is Francis Adainimo, raised a few concerns and the reason why he decided not to contest this time around. He's been a constant feature for the flag bearership race of the MPP for some time now. But then we're going to put the portions of this statement he issued on the screen shortly. But he says top of his concerns are the reason why he's not contesting. One is that there's inappropriate political timing. He says January 31, 2026 for the conduct of the presidential primary for him doesn't work. Also, the top-down approach to internal party contests, which has been severely criticized by many stalwarts within the party. Plus, he talks about the seeming inclination and bias of party executives towards one candidate. And finally, the unreasonable and unhealthy monetization of the internal politics of the NPP. These are cogent matters that must be paid attention to as raised by a key person within the party like Francis Adainimo?
Well, Alfred, let me take this opportunity to offer some education to people who want to do politics. And they don't do that individually as independent persons, but they decide to join a party. If you decide to join a party, what you have done to yourself is that you would want to merge your individual wishes and interests, aspirations, how you want things to be done as an individual. You want to join it to a group of individuals, and you have submitted your singular views to the views of the majority. That is simply what you have done. And so when the majority goes to decide and it fits into your thoughts, hallelujah. But if it happens that it doesn't fit into your thoughts or it deviates marginally or severely from your thoughts, you decided to join a democratic political party. And so you may want to hold on with your views and go with the views of the majority. So January 31st, it was a product of a properly constituted council meeting, unless that is in dispute. But if it is not, then please remember that you have joined a democratic political party and that some decisions may not go in line with the way you think.
I see.
The majority may sometimes differ from you.
Dr. Santioche, so
right?
this is the view of Professor Sapon. Yes, these concerns might be valid by Dynamo, but then again, it's a political party. It's not about him. So, yes, he would have his concerns, but the majority have had to have their day.
Well, that is the more reason why Dr. Bawumia should have thought about the fact that when he gets power, he was going to cancel e-levy, because once he was a member of government, his interest became subservient to that of the interest of the entire government or the political party that he belonged to. You cannot be picking and be choosing. So it doesn't have to be like when it suits you, you are picking. When it does not, you are running away. There should be corporate responsibility. I always tell my students, we sail together, we sing together. When you have been given a presentation to do as a group, we all work together. We come and present. If it goes well for all of us. If it does not, we all bear the brunt or the consequences of it. So what Adenimo is saying, as experienced as he's been, it's not something that is far from the truth. It is. But of course, everybody knows that it doesn't stand a chance at winning or making any impact. So it could be maybe somebody crying over a spilled milk. But that being said, how does it happen that before the 2024 elections, for example, you had about 10 candidates. 9 of them said that, look, we will want the elections to be centralized. The individual, that is Dr. Bawumia, he never had an opinion. And yet the party decided that it should be decentralized. What kind of democracy is that? When we are talking about, representation in terms of democracy, is that what that really means? No. Right. Yes, it is true. So when you come together and you become a member of the party, definitely you have to. But when it also comes up that you will need to let everybody know that this is what you stand for, you can go ahead and say that. It doesn't mean that you do not have the right, as an individual. It does not. So it doesn't have to appear like when you suit Dr. Bawumia, you'll be picking this. When it does not suit him, you'll be picking something else.
Well, gentlemen, stay with me. Coming up next year on Ghana Tonight, we're live from Akwatia, and just with the days to this by-election, the NDC and the MPP, they're ramping up their campaigns. That's coming up next year on Ghana Tonight. We're going to connect with Yvonne Ikwe shortly. She is our Eastern Regional Correspondent to give us a feel of what's happening on the ground, because as we speak, the MPP is preparing for a vigil in the memory of the late Member of Parliament for the area, NSE Alkumi. Now, Yvonne Ikwe is joining us right now from the Akwatia constituency this evening, and we'll try to reconnect with her on that and what has been happening. But the NDC as well has been on the ground. In fact, the chairman of the party, Johnson Esiedun Ketia, is in the constituency. Earlier today, he addressed a group of residents or constituents within the Akwatia constituency. This is what he had to say. Take a look. Well, that's the chair of the NDC there. Now, earlier today, the Accra High Court dismissed that application for interlocutory injunction by the Action People's Party against the Akwatia by-election slated for September 2. Now, if you recall, the party was challenging the Electoral Commission's disqualification of their candidate, David Ankoma, indicating that the EC notified him on short notice to present a task clearance certificate. Well, reacting to the decision of the court, the founder of the Action People's Party expressed his dissatisfaction about this decision by the courts.
we need to deal with the case in front of you. But talking about the other contestant that they have also spent money, that is out of my concern. My concern is the law. We need to deal with the law. Am I qualified to contest? Have I done everything possible to contest? Have I submitted all the documents to contest? That is the case before the judge. So if the judge make a ruling and concerning other political parties and republics, therefore my interest, why is my interest in the republic then? As long as we are not in the ballot and the court has made a decision, from tomorrow going, the party will make a decision and see.
That's the Action People's Party. Clearly, the courts have declared that they have no action to curtail the election on September 2. So that's what's happening. We'll be back after this quick break. We'll touch base with the Akwatia constituency tonight. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live as well on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook. And you'd see a lot of the sympathy at play because, and Professor Masapo is still with me, Dr. Jonathan Asanchotre, how much of the sympathy for the death of the Member of Parliament can the NPP capitalize on? As we speak, there is a vigil ongoing. We've seen the NDC heavily on the ground. The kind of campaign that we've seen the NDC do in the constituency, as per the reports of our correspondent, the NPP, in terms of their national executives, haven't been seen there that much as we're seeing with these other persons as well. How will the sympathy play out for them, Professor Swansapo?
Well, to the extent that the Member of Parliament hails from there and he is loved by the people as per the outcome of the 2024 elections, I'm sure people would want to sympathize with the family and by extension sympathize with his party. But then it depends on the involvement or the engagement of the necessary people on the grounds. Try to speak to them, remind them of perhaps the love they have for the dead, the one who left, and then any other campaign strategy they seek to deploy to consolidate the sympathy or to collaborate the sympathy that the people may want to bring on. Yes, sympathies do usually play a lot of role in politics, but every political cycle is different from the other. So if in the past sympathy has done a lot of good for political parties, it doesn't necessarily mean that at all times sympathy may play out. But we expect some sympathy to play out. It's been quite very, very recent. He entered Parliament less than 7 months, or I think 6 months or so, and he left. So his memories are quite fresh in the minds of the people of Akwatia. And so I expect some sympathy to play out. But hey, it is not always the case that at all times where sympathy is available, it should play or inure to the benefit of the expected. Let them still continue to do the engagement, talk to the people, do the campaign, and then be vigilant on elections day and ensure that all their expected people go out in their numbers to go and vote peacefully so that we will come back here to discuss the possible outcome.
Jotri, is the vigil that we're talking about. You have quite a number of the constituents as well on the streets. Essentially, this is going to be throughout the night. This is the vigil that is ongoing as we speak in the Akwatia constituency in the memory of the departed Member of Parliament, NSC Alkume. How much of leverage will this give the MPP going into this crucial September 2 by-election? Dr. Jotri, quick one.
Well, sympathy votes, have always played a part when it comes to by-elections. But strangely enough, when Global Info Analytics data came out, the first item or the first motivation for the voters was development project. The second was the economy. Third one or so was education. Fourth was about galamsey. In fact, sympathy vote was about the sit on the sit item on the list. That is quite strange. And so, in as much as sympathy, may take some kind of role, if you are looking at the situation from a realistic perspective, if Akwatia is part of Ghana and realize that, well, the economy as it used to be, and the economy as we are running today, or we are seeing today, we are seeing some kind of difference. As rational beings, that's what happened at Ablekuma Central or so. I said that as long as the police stations have become expanded, it will inure to the benefit of the NDC. And that was the time I told you, and then they won. So this time around, if you look at the gap, it's just around 2,000. If you compare the character traits, of the two main contestants, that of the NDC and the NPP, it appears the NDC candidate is quite ahead of the business mogul. But let's see how it pans out. But For me, I see it as more of a 50-50. Any of the two parties can easily win. But if the economy is one of the leading factors, behind electorate deciding as to who to vote for, then it means that a good ruler Mr. Mahama has could easily play a part to tilt the scales, on behalf of the NDC. But anything can happen. Global Influence says that the MP candidate is 49% So let's see how it goes. It means that it's very close.
All right.
If you look at the what's it called, the margin of error, it's very infinitesimal. Yeah.
I thank you very much for joining us. Dr. Jonathan Asanchoche is a senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast, also a political analyst. To you as well, Professor Smatsabon, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us as well. Political analyst and a lecturer at the Kumasi Technical University College as well for joining us. Appreciate you. On behalf of the rest of the team, thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. And do join us same time tomorrow for another conversation. My name is Alfred Ocansey. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and coil.